Welcome, everyone, back to the TDsportspress podcast. It is Thursday, and we are going to finish our game previews that we had from last week. Got about 5 games that we'll be going over. We'll also be introducing our upset meter. We'll be going over teams who I think might have a chance of getting upset. And we got a pretty full show today, so we are excited. College football is going on right now. We had a couple games yesterday that were really good. We had a game, a couple games today that were looking really good. So I was just watching Tulane, Eastern Carolina. I'm a football sicko like that when it comes to some of that stuff like there. So, like I said, let's just get right into it. Let's start off with our upset meter. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's get the old upset meter here. The upset meter is 0 to 100. So I'll tell you how I feel. Maybe if an upset happens. So this will be like if a ranked team plays an unranked team. So some of them might be already team previews we already did, and so as we go on, I'll let you know how that all kind of works. So our first game that we'll be looking at here is Pittsburgh goes to number 25, Florida State. Florida State, they're 3-2, coming off 2 losses to Virginia and Miami. You kind of know about that. And Pitt had a great win last week. They bounced back from that Louisville loss that they had, and this is at Florida State. Florida State has a 78% chance to win, according to ESPN analytics here. I'm gonna put this one at like a 35 out of 100. I'll put this one at 35 out of 100. I just don't see it happening. I think this is a bounce back for Florida State. They kind of had 2 tough weeks. I'm going to put a 35 out of 100 on this upset alert meter. So I don't see it for happening, I would say, but we'll see. Moving on to our next game that on the upset meter here, and we would love to have a sponsor, someone to sponsor our upset alert meter, sponsored by somebody. That'd be awesome. That would be something that we would really enjoy to have on the channel. So here we go. We got Washington State going to number 4 Ole Miss on the upset scale. Ole Miss is favored by 31.5 points. And Trinidad's going to get the start here. It looks like they're still going to work in their other quarterback as well. Excuse me. Sorry. We had to get a yawn in. I put a 15 out of 100. I don't see it happening. Wazoo is 3-2. They have been blown out by North Texas. And they just haven't looked the best. And Ole Miss, they got everything in front of them. They got they might be looking ahead to that Georgia game next week. That is something that they'll obviously be have your minds to. But I don't see anything crazy going on here. I think that Ole Miss will go ahead and win this here. Moving on, we got number 6 Oklahoma and Texas. John Matera, we still do not know his status. That's kind of why I pushed that game preview to Thursday. We still don't know his status. And then we got Texas as well. So Oklahoma's 5-0, 3-2. I'm gonna put this one out at like a 40 or like a 50. I'm 50. I'm halfway concerned, right? I would say. You know what? I'm going to put this one more as a 70. Let's go 70 on this one, more than the 50. Let's go 70. I can see it happening, especially if John Mateer doesn't play. I put it at 70. If he is playing, it's going to be a 50 because I think if John Mateer, even if he does play, I don't think he will be at full strength. So I would put a 70 on that. Texas, they're in desperation mode. Like, I'll go more into, we'll talk about this game later, but they're in desperation mode. They need a win, and it feels like when a team in college football is desperate, kind of like what Florida did to Texas last week, where they're in desperation mode, we might see something like that with Texas. I would not be surprised if something like that happens. Moving on, we got our next game on the upset alert meter. We have Virginia Tech, 2-4, going to Georgia Tech. Obviously, Virginia Tech, new head coach, or excuse me, I guess an interim head coach. And Georgia Tech, that's 5-0, coming off a bye. They played Wake Forest and escaped that game. So the only difference is Georgia Tech is at home. Haynes King, he's the Tim Tebow of today's college football, however you want to put it. Very interested to see what Haynes King can do here. And I'm going to put this one at like a 42. The reason why it's so high is I didn't like the way Georgia Tech played at Wake Forest. They just did not play inspired football. I mean, they were down. I think it was like 20-7, 23, something like that. They obviously came back and won, and that's a great trait to have. Which you can't be doing that with Virginia Tech. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if Virginia Tech's been playing good football lately. They got a win against NC State recently as well that beat Virginia. Kind of, I know it's kind of like a train or a chain reaction that happened there. So we'll definitely see if something comes along with that. I don't see that coming happening. So like I said, 42 out of 100. Moving on, we have NC State, ironically, a team that we were just talking about, going to South Bend and Notre Dame. And on the upset meter, Notre Dame is a 22.5-point favorite. I got this one like at a 28. I am not concerned about Notre Dame. I think they're clicking on all cylinders. And you can say, oh, their schedule's terrible. And I would agree with you. We live in a day and age where Notre Dame needs to be in a conference. It makes no sense to me why Notre Dame is not in a football conference. I could care less if they're in the ACC for other sports. Notre Dame needs to be in a conference right now. It makes no sense to me why Notre Dame gets this, oh, if you win 10 games, yeah, come in. Yep, you beat, Dakota State or so, Dakota State. You beat Weber State. Congratulations. Shout out to Weber State. But Notre Dame, they need to be in a conference. It makes no sense to me. They need to be in the Big Ten, the ACC. The one conference that makes more sense to me would be the Big Ten. The Big Ten already has that television contract with Peacock, so it would make perfect sense for NBC. That's who owns the rights to the Notre Dame game, and it would make perfect sense for them to go in the Big Ten. But I understand why Notre Dame. You got to understand their financial side. NBC is paying a lot of money for Notre Dame football, but we got to have a college football commissioner. And we got to get this figured out because Notre Dame should not be playing these kind of teams. And I know NC State's in the ACC, but I was just, they played Boise State last week. They should be playing some conference games. But that's beyond the point. Going on, we talked about this game on the stream last week. So we have number 22, Iowa State going to Colorado. I'm going to put this one at a 38 just because of healthy reasons right there. Colorado, they're desperate for a win. I would say Iowa State, they don't need one, but it would be nice, is what I would say. So I think a 38 is great. I don't know how long Colorado's going to keep their starting quarterback before they move on to that freshman, Julian Lewis. If I think that's his name. If I missed it, let me know in the comment section. But I just don't see anything like that fruitioning to happen. So I think Iowa State's going to get this. I put it at 38 out of 100. I just don't see anything crazy going on. Maybe something crazy does happen. I just don't see it happening. All right, moving on. We got, like I said, this is kind of rapid fire because there's so many games. We got Arkansas going to Tennessee. Tennessee is an 11.5-point favorite. Arkansas obviously fired their head coach. They got Bobby Petrino. I can't even. Never mind. I try to have a hard time. Bobby Petrino's back at Arkansas after what happened, but nevertheless, Tennessee's 11.5-point favorites at home, and Arkansas, we got Bobby Petrino now, so I put this one at like a 55 out of 100. But this is pretty high. This just feels like Arkansas might, this could be a high-scoring affair. The total is set at 67.5. That is absurd. And I understand Taylor Green's a great quarterback for Arkansas, but can Tennessee afford for that game to be that high scoring? That's insane. That's like a 35 to 31 type of football game. Can Tennessee score that many points? And yes, they did against Georgia. I would agree. But can Joey Aguilar do it again? That's something I'm very keen on. I put this out at 55 out of 100. I just think Arkansas is going to keep it close. They've been keeping it close. You look at Ole Miss, they kept it close. Obviously, Notre Dame, they laid an egg or whatever happened on the football field and lost Lafayette or whatever that was. But I think they're going to keep this one close. So 55 out of 100. Moving on, we got Florida going to Texas A&M. Like I said, we talked about this game. Or I don't remember if we talked about this last time or whatever. I'm putting a 60 on this one. And you guys might be thinking, Florida? Yeah, if it depends on what Florida team shows up. If Florida plays like the way they did against Texas, I understand it's Texas, they will have a shot at the end of this game to win the football game. If DJ Lagway throws for 296 yards again, they will have a chance to win this football game. That is what it's going to come down to. Texas A&M, I don't know. I understand. I just, some of these SEC games give me a funny feeling. This is one of them where I have a funny feeling, I would say. So we'll see. We got Kansas going to number 9 Texas Tech. Kansas is coming off a win against UCF, and that was a crazy game in the rain and all that. Texas Tech is one of the most complete football teams in the nation right now, and some of you guys might agree with that, and I would understand. But how do I think this game's going? Or on the upset meter, I'm going to put a 45 out of 100. This is at Texas Tech. Texas Tech has beat every opponent they've played by over 24 points up to this point. And their schedule is going to get harder for Texas Tech as the year goes on. I just don't see, an upset coming here. So give me a 45 out of 100 on that. Moving on, we got number 10 Georgia going to Auburn. This one is at a 75 out of 100. This is at Auburn. Auburn is another desperate SEC team that has 2 losses, and Hugh Freeze is coaching for his job against Georgia. And Georgia's coming in at 4-1, coming off that bye again, or not that bye, but excuse me. So, I apologize. Sorry, a lot of yawning tonight. But this line is set at 3.5. That seems about right for Georgia. I know a lot of people like Auburn. Auburn has played it close with Texas A&M, and they also played it close with Oklahoma. They beat Baylor at the beginning of the year. Like Auburn, this is their chance. This is their chance to be a top 10 ranked team and for Hugh Freeze to keep his job. This is a game that Auburn has to have, and like I talked about it earlier, in games that feel like teams absolutely need to have, they just somehow do better. So I'm going to put 75 out of 100. Would not be surprised on the upset alert meter. Moving on the upset alert meter, we got Michigan going to USC. I got this one an 80 out of 100. As you guys know, I picked USC to win this game on Tuesday. It's really hard going from East Coast to West Coast. This feels like a great opportunity for USC to get in the win column here. Let's move on in the upsets. We got 3 games left here. We have South Carolina at 3-2 going to LSU and Death Valley. I'm going to put a 45 out of 100 on this one. I don't see it happening. I understand South Carolina's 3-2. LSU's 4-1. This line seems right up with me. I know LSU hasn't been playing great lately, but I think that they'll be able to contain South Carolina. I feel bad for Sellers. Like, he just doesn't have anyone to throw the ball to right now. And LSU, they haven't scored more than 20 points the entire year. So this would be a great game to do this in, guys. So I 45 out of 100 on the upset scale meter here. We got number 18 BYU going to Arizona. We'll be talking about this game later in the podcast. BYU is going to win this game. I'm not worried about. I would put like a 40 out of 100. They got some injuries to their defense, but I don't see BYU having to struggle with that. Last game on the upset alert meter, we have number 21 Arizona State going to Utah. I have this one at an 85. I feel very confident Utah's going to win this game. And with that being said, that is our upset alert meter presented by nobody. But maybe one day I will be able to end that. But we have our upset alert meter that is sponsored by TDsportspress. So that's what it looks like. So let's get back into our game previews. That's our upset alert meter. That will be every single Thursday night. Moving on. Man, first game we're going to be talking about. We got a lot of people ask me why we didn't do this game on Tuesday. We saved this for Thursday. We have number 7 Indiana going to number 3 Oregon. You look at this game as a whole. Oregon opened up at a 7.5-point favorite. That's down to 6.5. ESPN Analytics give Oregon a 70% chance to win this game. You look at it, the Moore kid from Oregon, he had a really good performance at Penn State on the road. That win doesn't look as good as it did 2 weeks ago. And then you got the Indiana quarterback that's thrown for 1,200 yards, 89 of 22, 16 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Obviously, these two quarterbacks are copy and paste of each other. I'm expecting a really good quarterback matchup. Both running backs, you look all around. There's a lot of, similarities between these two. But I think Oregon wins this game. I just have a hard time seeing Oregon losing at home. Oregon doesn't lose at home often. I can't remember off the top of my head. They probably lost to Washington 3 years ago, maybe. That's probably like the most recent home loss I can think of that they have. Maybe someone can correct me on that. But I don't see Oregon losing. Indiana's a great football team. Like, this is Indiana's shot. Like, if Indiana wins this game, they're going to the playoffs. That's kind of what the kind of vibe I'm getting off this Indiana team. And to Kirk's sake, then he might have this team ready to go. Would not be surprised at all if that's what happens. But I just don't see Oregon struggling in this spot. I think it's going to come down to quarterback play. I'm going to take more in this situation here. And going to Oregon's not easy. And it's not going to Penn State wide out. It's not. It might be that level. I don't know. Haven't been to it, but I just don't see Oregon really struggling in this matchup. I feel like they'll get their run game going, but I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana makes this interesting. I like the 6.5. I think that's a very good set line for this game. So I think Oregon wins this game. I think that this will still be a very close game at the end. So I'm excited for this game. That game's going to get my blood rolling. That's a great game. That might be the game of the week, or it could be this one. It's not the one I thought it was, but that's okay. We have number 5. Number 5. Texas A&M playing Florida. We talked about this one on the upset alert meter. Pretty high on this game actually, but Texas A&M is a 7.5 point favorite here. What kind of Florida team are we going to get? That's what it's going to come down to. Florida ran the ball a lot more than they did against Texas, so I'm very interested if they're going to stay in the run. This started up at an 8.5. It's already down to 7.5 for Texas A&M. ESPN Analytics give Texas A&M a 74% chance to win this game. How do I see this game going? Lagway had a great week through for 300 yards last week. And Marcel Reed, I think, is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the nation. Texas A&M has one of the best resumes in the nation. That's why they're at number 5 in the AP poll. It's going to come down to which team can run the football. And I trust Texas A&M and Mike Elko to get the job done there. I think this is a good spot for Texas A&M to kind of get 6-0, kind of settle in. They destroyed Mississippi State last week. If Florida plays like they did against USF, they're going to get Mississippi State this week by Texas A&M. But if Florida plays like they did against Texas, they will give Texas A&M everything they want to handle. I'm not saying they're going to win the game. They will make it interesting at the end. It just depends on what Florida team shows up. I'm just not sure what Florida team I'm going to get. And that's why this game is so hard to predict right now. So wouldn't be surprised if that game is a little bit closer than what everyone thinks. All right. We're going to talk about it. Red River Rivalry. Red River, whatever you want to call it. I know it's got like Showdown, whatever the title is. So we look at this game. We don't know a lot. I'll be honest with you. ESPN Sportsbook has them at Oklahoma at -1.5. Every other sportsbook that I have seen has Texas at -1.5. We look at this as a whole. Texas is in desperation mode. They're 3-2. And we got Oklahoma 5-0. I don't know, like we talked about this in the episode alert meter, we don't know what John Mateer is going to do. Gosh, this one's going to be hard. Or, Oklahoma doesn't run the ball well either. It's really going to come down to which team can get the run game established. Arch Manning has the most rushing yards on Texas of 160. So, I'll be very interesting. And if Mateer plays, what kind of Mateer are we going to get? What kind of healthy Mateer are we going to get? I just don't know. We look at this game. Give me Oklahoma to win this game. I just have a hard time seeing Oklahoma or Texas lose this game, but I just trust Oklahoma. I'm done playing hypotheticals with Texas. This is the Texas team we're getting. It's either their offensive line or their defense isn't getting it done. It's always someone not getting the job done. That's just what it is. So give me Oklahoma to win this game. Like I said, neither team runs the football well, and that's the key point right there. What team is going to be able to establish the run game? Because whatever team establishes the run game is going to win the football game. Pretty self-explanatory in this one. So, super excited for this one. This game is always good. Doesn't matter who plays in this game. So, let's move on. We just did that one. We're moving on to Texas Tech and Kansas. Like I said, Kansas is coming off that win at UCF. Texas Tech, let's see what Texas Tech is coming out. Texas Tech, they're one of the most complete teams in the nation, in my point. This game will be on Fox, 5:30 kickoff on Fox. We got number 9 Texas Tech, 5-0, Kansas 4-2. This line set at 14.5. I can see why. ESPN Analytics give Texas Tech a 75% chance to win it if you value that. Morton's a great quarterback for Texas Tech. And we got Jalen Daniels, one of the oldest quarterbacks. He might be the oldest. But Texas Tech is coming off a 35-11, kind of trouncing of Houston. That was kind of a game we looked at last week where said that could be interesting. And like I said, Texas Tech hasn't beat a team less than 24 points. That's what they beat Houston by. I don't see Texas Tech really struggling with this Kansas team. Unless Kansas, Kansas defense is terrible, like historically defense. I feel bad for the Kansas offense. If they had any defense whatsoever, they would probably be 4-1 or something like that. There are 2 losses because they don't play defense. You look at Missouri, they gave up like 30 points. Cincinnati, they gave up 606 yards. Like, that's just what it's going to come down to. I don't think Kansas offense is, like, their front is going to get demolished by Texas or defensive line up front. I just don't see it happening. So, give me Texas Tech to win this game. I don't know how close it's going to be. I don't see that game being particularly close. And maybe I'm wrong. I would love a good close game. Moving on, we got number 18 BYU is a 1.5 point favorite against Arizona. Obviously, we talked about BYU kind of having the injury bug on defense, and this is the first test we're going to see for Bear, the quarterback that transferred from Stanford, but this is his already committed to Stanford, transferred to BYU in the spring. This is kind of the first test for Bear. Very interested. BYU opened up at a 2.5 point favorite, and they're still at a 2.5 point favorite. This is I would say my best bet of the week. Like, if you are into that, that's great. Take BYU minus 2.5. I think this is the bet of the week. I just don't see how Arizona Arizona's offense is going to struggle against BYU's defense. If you haven't seen BYU's defense, it's crazy. You look at BYU's offense. I love what they're doing on offense. They're getting their best players out in open space, and they're making, people tackle one-on-one. And teams haven't been able to do it. And I understand BYU's best team they've probably played so far is Colorado. But this is my best bet of the week. Like, take BYU minus 2.5 if you're into that. Like, take it. So, I think BYU wins this game. And I'm kind of shocked the line's only 2.5. I think this is a great spot for BYU to, get ready for Utah. I'm excited to talk about that game next week. I hope both teams win this week so we can have a great Holy War, which is probably one of the most underrated games in college football. Like, I don't think that gets enough attention. Like, it should get more attention, in my opinion. Moving on, we got one more game for you tonight, and then we're out of here. Oh, no, we don't. We talked about that game last week. So, thanks for everyone that was part of the show tonight. Really excited for the week of college football we're going to get. Great matches in here. Like I said, we're 52-15 on picks. That's awesome. If you made it this point, we are at 7 subscribers on YouTube. We need 3 more to get to 10 subscribers. We are going to have a we're going to have a giveaway once we hit 100 subscribers on YouTube. Super excited about that. Going to work on some of the logistics of how that's all going to work. So make sure you guys are a subscriber because, you got a 1 in 100 chance. It's better than some of the other big YouTube people that are out there. So you have a pretty good shot, honestly. So with that being said, I think we're going to end the show here. We'll be live Sunday with our takeaway show, so don't be prepared for that. Follow us on TikTok. We're on TikTok live most of the time. You guys will see us live on there, and we'll be live there this weekend. So with that being said, have a great college football weekend. We'll see you back here on Sunday.